Hello, the internet!
And welcome to another episode of
80-bit Podsmash,
where gaming goes to grab a beer.
Tink! We are your hosts, Penguin and Termite, and this is our Skiff episode.
Skiff? Are those flying ships that are in Star Wars that, like, on episode 6, Luke jumps around on with Boba Fett and grabs his lightsaber and saves everybody?
According to Google, a skiff is a shallow, flat-bottomed, open boat with a sharp bow and square stern.
I don't know what that means.
I know bow is the front of the ship,
yep.
And the square is the stern is the back of the
Correct.
ship. So it's got a square back and a
pointy front.
What
are they used for?
Flat.
Why?
I don't know. According to Wikipedia, let's see. Wait, hold up. I can scroll down. No, here we go. They're coastal or river craft used for leisure or fishing and have a one-person or small crew.
Oh, wow.
So, leisure or fishing.
Okay.
That's a good one for this episode because we're fishing for ideas, and it's going to be leisurely.
We'd love to hear more responses after this episode from everyone.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an episode where we will do, like, part 1 now, and then as we have more ideas in the future, we'll do a part 2.
We'll revisit it.
Yeah, and part 3 probably in 3 years.
So our podcast is taking off. We're 7 episodes in now.
And
this is our episode 7.
Yeah, we
have lots of responses from folks. We're
listeners.
engaging our audience. This is amazing.
Yeah, we have a good number of listeners, more than I thought we would starting off. So hopefully more come in. I'm very excited.
No, I've actually remembered a couple episodes ago I was talking about how I wanted to have a name for our audience. Remember that? We were talking about like naming them something. I had a recommendation today.
Okay.
Podsmashers.
Ooh.
Our Podsmashers. Our devoted audience who cares to listen to us over and over and over again. And if you listened to episode 7, I hope that you've listened to everything so far.
Yeah.
If you've stuck with us this long, you're a Podsmasher.
You're a smasher.
I like it. Ooh, a smasher.
Yeah.
Phrase it
even more.
You know.
You are like to smash.
How you doing?
I'm good. By the time this launches, it will be November, and November is NaNoWriMo, which is short for National Novel Writing Month.
No, I didn't know this.
Being an aspiring writer, I want to participate this year. I would like to. So I'm now in like trying to get myself mentally prepared mode because right now it's mid-October, so I'm trying to mentally prepare to try to accomplish this. What the goal is for National Novel Writing Month is 50,000 words in 30 days. So it ends up
a lot.
Being around 1,700 words a day, which is very challenging. I mean, Stephen King is notorious for only writing 1,500 words a day, and he's
only
Stephen King. So there are people who do it, though, every year, and so kudos to them. I would like to try to do it this year. I will probably...
Wait, do you mean Stephen King's participation in this month of November,
I mean Stephen King,
life?
when he's writing his books, he's notorious for doing 1,500 words a day. So this is 1,700 words, and that's if you, that means, taking no days off. If you take a day off, then you have to double that and do 3,000 words in a day or whatever until you catch up. So it's tough. I've tried it once. I got halfway. So last time I did this, I got halfway. I got 25,000 words done. And pretty much that was the meat of when I wrote my novel. So most of my novel that I have currently finished, that I'm working on editing right now, was written during that one time I tried NaNoWriMo and got 25,000 words done. So
why'd you stop?
It's hard, man.
Yeah?
It's hard. You really have to, because it's, my writing process, for one, I'm terribly, terribly unmotivated and unstructured and undisciplined as just a human being. It's something I'm working on. That's why I have you for this podcast.
Yeah, I was about to say.
If I didn't have you for this podcast, it wouldn't get done. But when it comes to writing, you have to, if you're doing this particular task, you have to come up with 1,700 words worth of content every day.
It's a lot.
It's hard. And so you probably, I usually structure out the story either in my head or on paper, but usually it's just like, okay, here's point A, and then I want point D to happen, and then I want point G, and then eventually they'll get to point M, but all those middle points, I have no idea. So I'm making stuff up. Actually the best thing to do in some cases is be like, okay, so now my character is trapped in a brick building and has to figure out how to get out, because then I can get a couple hundred words out of that.
Yeah.
So it's just trying to find tricks and stuff. But I've matured as a writer since then. My first time I did it, it was just I'm trying to get all of this out and trying to get all these story beats. And it's challenging. It's exhausting too, because that takes up, there will go my video game time probably for the month of November.
Wow,
so,
that's impressive. I mean, it's good.
Yeah. So again, by the time this launches, I'll be in the thick of it. So hopefully I'll keep up with it or start it in the first place.
Yeah.
Because, again, it's only October right now, so I couldn't be all huster and bluster on the podcast. And then November 1st will run around, and I'll be like, I don't know, I'd rather grow out my beard for No Shave November instead.
Oh, forget that. I look horrible with a beard. I don't even do that.
Well, that's you. I'm currently sporting some
You can knock it out.
Yeah. That would be a good combination, growing a beard and writing a novel.
Yeah.
And Kai will come emerged.
Wait, if you get really small, tight jeans and drink some liquor, you'll be a true millennial.
I will emerge from the month with a manuscript in hand and a beard.
Hipster or millennial?
I think they're synonymous at this point, but we can bash our own generation, okay? We're millennials, so don't start getting your BuzzFeed think pieces out like we're with you. We can make fun of our own, all right?
That's right. So also, November is when this podcast will launch. I have a marathon coming up this Saturday.
Oh, snap.
Well, it'll be the 11th, which is not from where we're recording it, but from the launch of this episode.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I will be approaching the final week of tapering into our marathon. So I've been training for that since July, and I've been roughly successful in my training. I've hit all of my numbers and done even better than I expected to. But I'm also sick as a dog right now. So I might cough into the mic. I might, interrupt the podcast to go hack a loogie. I apologize for the graphics of our podcast, talking about poop at the beginning of everything, and now hawking loogies.
Hawking loogies.
Yeah,
that's gotten tamer over time, though. So we're on a civilizing bell curve.
We're maturing, even in 7 episodes. But unfortunately, that sickness has knocked out some of my key training runs. So we'll see how it happens. I'm anxious. I'm excited. I'm eager. All of the above. Running 26.2 miles is no easy feat.
Well, myself and the rest of the Smashers will cheer you on.
If you guys could get a group of people that have some similar T-shirt on that's holding up a sign, that would be amazing.
We'll cheer you on in spirit from our homes.
It'll be Richmond, November 11th. Yeah.
Well, I told him,
look it up,
when he runs the Boston Marathon and completes it, I will be standing there with a cutout cardboard, a trophy, PlayStation trophy sign.
Oh my gosh!
It says Boston Marathon.
That would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that's what I
might cry
for you. If you run, it's only if you get into the Boston Marathon. So there's your motivation. You got to get your trophy.
I needed any more motivation.
You got to get your trophy.
That's my life goal. In case you pod smashers out there don't know this, my life goal in running is to get to Boston. That is the biggest bucket list achievement that I have. I can't wait. And the qualifying times get easier when I turn 35. So I'm going to keep running and get faster every year. And I'm either going to get fast enough or I'll age in by just aging, 35, 40, 45 as the times get easier.
Yeah, this banter got real today. We're both talking about goals.
Yeah, we are.
I want to write a novel and publish it, and you want to run a marathon.
Run my 5th marathon?
You want to run the Boston Marathon?
That's a multi-year goal, though. That's not going to happen in November.
Publishing my novel is a multi-year goal, too.
But you look like you want to finish it this November.
Well, no, I'll be writing a new novel this November.
Oh, you're going to start from scratch.
I'm going to start a new thing. Yeah, I'm not going to work on my already existing property, man.
All right.
That's not, I don't know. But cool. Well, that's banter for the day. We'll go ahead and move on to DLC, downloadable content.
All right. So I actually am going to kick off this DLC with a kudos or a shout out to Kind of Funny Games. They have a Kind of Funny Games daily show that they've started this year, and I actually snatched this topic off of that. And I heard it this morning. I don't know the day. They were talking about it on the podcast. So shout out to Tim Geddes, who's out there in the world, who's awesome. And he asked his co-host this question, and I thought it would be a fun discussion really quick for our DLC. And that question is, Penguin, how do you approach difficulty in video games? How do you approach changing the settings from easy to hard? What motivates you to choose harder difficulties or easier ones?
Yeah, I'll say right after the top, off the cuff, I'll say I like this DLC because it's a little bit different from our normal DLCs, but our topic today is a little different from our normal topics.
That's true.
So it's going to be a nice little mirror parallel. Our topic today is going to be more like what we typically talk about with DLC, and then so it's kind of cool that DLC is more in line with what we typically talk about in a topic. So, but it's good for a mini discussion. So to answer your question, Termite, I typically, it depends on what I want to get out of the experience of the game. Typically with games, ARPGs, games like Darksiders or Devil May Cry, I go for the not easiest difficulty setting, but I go for the normal difficulty setting. I get the sense in most cases that normal difficulty in games are designed and tuned for people who just want to get through the experience, but don't want it to be easy mode. Still want it I think it's the purest experience. It's not the most hardcore of the hardcore, but it's like, here's the challenge that we intend for you to get the most out of the story while also getting the most challenge out of what we've prepared for you. So in games like that, I typically go for normal because I'm usually just trying to get through the experience of the game. But then there's other games, if you consider games like Diablo, I'm always pushing, trying to get to the way the difficulty settings work in that game is as you get more powerful as a character, you're pushing higher difficulties. So the difficulty of the game is inextricably tied to the strength of your character. I like that. So
it's almost like the harder difficulty is more of a progression.
Yeah, exactly. And when you brought up this DLC, you brought it up a day after we did a Nightfall raid in the new Destiny.
Oh, yeah, we did.
I have to tell you guys the story. I'm so proud of Termite. It was the funniest thing in the world. It's probably the hardest Nightfall they've done yet, in my opinion, the ones that I've played. And we had a minute left. For those of you who don't know what a Nightfall is, in Destiny 2 they have these things called strikes, which are kind of like dungeons in typical MMOs. They're just a quick 45 to 30 minute set of challenges. They have bosses, they drop loot, and you do it in a group of 3, in this case, a fire team of 3. So the Nightfalls, they take those strikes and they just make them harder by adding A, time limit, B, the enemies do more damage, and C, there's always some kind of modifier. So the modifier is irrelevant. What is important is we had a time limit. We have 1 minute left. We're on the last boss, and he's almost dead, but me and our friend Ian are both lying dead on the ground. And Termite here is like, I got my super up, but I'm not sure I can hit him because last time I undershot him. And we're like, no, just hang back, wait, we're going to resurrect in a second. He's like, no, I got this. And so I'm sitting there dead, and I'm watching him run up to the boss while taking, shot after shot after shot. And he jumps in the air, fires his Nova Bomb, hits the boss, and I see this giant clam demon just crumble in the sky. And I'm like, yes!
It was pretty epic.
I was so proud of him. Yep. So, yeah, I mean, when it comes to things like that, I will usually, the reason I bring it up is because the Nightfall is a great example of a harder difficulty experience that I choose to partake of because I can do it with friends and because we can experience the challenge together.
It was really fun.
And
it would have not been fun at all if I had just done it with random online guys.
Exactly. So I'm more likely to push more challenging difficulties in video games when I can do it with friends. Versus if I'm just playing a game by myself to relax and get the experience out of it, I'll probably go for the normal or easier difficulty settings.
Hot off the press of Termite's brain right now, you just realized a thought that I had no idea.
Exclusive?
Yeah,
I got a Termite exclusive.
You got a Termite exclusive. So the difficulty settings I was thinking of were actually just like you choose easy, medium, and hard, and the game mechanics are different fundamentally that cause it to be different. And there's different ways you can implement that. What you've shine a light on is the progression difficulty. That's Diablo and Destiny, where it doesn't really get harder. Like, you're not choosing a hard mode. You are always trying to progress your character to a stronger level, and the only way you can get farther is to do a harder thing in the game. I think there's two different things.
No, they're very different. And, I mean, they're even different, and I'm willing to partake in one. I'm more likely to go for the progression kind of difficulty than I am for just the static, this is now harder, this game is now... I usually don't like to... These days, I don't like to repeat a game experience if I've done it.
Right.
Breath of the Wild maybe is an exception to that, and that's just because I'm playing through it now on Master Mode. Even then, I still kind of pick it up because I've already played it, I've already done it.
Right.
It's just harder.
Once you've sunk 100 and some hours into it, you don't want to go back and do it on the harder mode because you know it's going to take another 100 and some hours.
And that's all it is it's just harder. Like, I already know how to solve most of the puzzles. I've already fought most of these enemies. They're just objectively harder. But that goes for games that goes for all action RPGs. Like Darksiders, I've already played it. It's just harder now. The enemies do more damage and are harder to kill. Like, I don't personally find as much of a challenge in just the static increase. I mean, but even the progression level, it just depends, really, because, like, I think of World of Warcraft, and I'm like, their current raid difficulty is, like, you've got Raid Finder mode, you've got normal mode, you've got heroic mode, and you have mythic mode. Like, I'm not going to do the same freaking raid 4 times. I'm not. I
think it's another progression thing.
Yeah, it is.
You have to be certain gear level to get the higher difficulty.
Yep.
So it is harder, but it's not like you can't choose a hard mode from level 1 and the entire game is harder.
No, I'm not going to do that progression. I might I'll probably get through normal mode and be satisfied. You know what I mean? Of a raid, and be like, I experienced that content. That was great. Look at my cool gear that I got from it. It's not as cool as the guy who's doing Mythic, but I don't care.
Yep. I do believe when I was young, I used to play like Super Nintendo games on easy because I wanted to win. I hated losing. It was frustrating to me. And then I got made fun of for doing easy mode, and I thought, well, maybe I should challenge myself as a gamer a little more, and I'll just stick with normal. And then the Xbox 360 unveiled achievements. And with those achievements are tied difficulties, which means I have to play every game on hard so that I can only play through it once and get as many achievements as possible. To even exacerbate that, PlayStation came out with trophies, which we referenced earlier with the Boston Marathon Platinum trophies. I am obsessed with them. I don't know a clean word for trophy. There's a bad word out there for it, but I will chase after trophies.
Trophy addict?
Yeah, that'll work. That's a family-friendly word.
Relatively
and so. Before, like, whenever I get a new game, I will go online and look at the trophy list. And if it has difficulty, then I know to start that game on the hardest difficulty. Now, South Park is about to come out. I already know you have to choose the hardest difficulty to get a trophy, so I'm going to do that right off the bat.
Yeah.
I hate it because I get super frustrated, and I don't have time to constantly die and redo these things over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So Horizon Zero Dawn actually doesn't have trophies tied to difficulty, and they came out with an easier than easy difficulty called story difficulty, and I immediately chose that, and I am blowing through this game.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm enjoying the story. It's awesome, but like, I'm one-shotting these giant, like, massive machines that are supposed to take 15 minutes to kill.
So you'd sum up your approach to choosing difficulty by saying it's entirely motivated by
trophies. Yep, absolutely.
Achievements, I see.
And I don't want to waste time. So if difficulties are not in the trophies, I'm choosing the easiest, absolute easiest difficulty possible.
Gotcha. Cool.
So I don't take any pride in, I'm the hardcorest of gamers and I want the hardest difficulty. Yeah. Although I can actually say that because if you look at my trophy list, I've done a lot of games on hard.
Yeah. Well, tell us what you guys think. If you are all about the EPing and just want to say, I have accomplished the hardest, I am the master of gamers, then that is a valid approach. We completely acknowledge that. You are better at games than us. We are also old and don't have time to be good at games.
And probably fall into the more casual
for sure.
aspect of gaming than
for sure.
Our audience.
Cool. So do you want to go into our discussion?
So that sounded like our topic, but it wasn't, as Dan mentioned earlier. Our actual topic this evening is...
We're talking about our wish list.
We are making a video games wish list. We're going to discuss sequels and remakes of existing IPs, games that don't exist that we wish did, and also what we wish existing IP in the hands of new developers could be like.
Yep, IP, for those who don't know, stands for intellectual property. We're just kind of going through what if we could kind of will games into existence that don't exist. This is that. This is our dreams, if you will. We're dreaming big tonight.
And to quote the wonderful Tim Geddes once again, because he's hilarious and part of Kinda Funny, and I listen to their stuff all the time, I would be considered one of their best friends. Oh. You guys are our Podsmashers, but they call their audience best friends.
Best friends.
Anyway, he always says 2017 is the year of dreams, and I completely agree. I've been clamoring for a proper Sonic game, Sonic the Hedgehog, since Sonic & Knuckles came out. And no game since has met that expectation more than Sonic Mania, which came out this year, and it's absolutely incredible. Also, the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy has come out this year and brought the PlayStation 1 janky, clumsy, mechanically kind of buggy jump platforming game to modern era, and they've nailed it. It is absolutely perfect. The music, the mechanics, the graphics, like all of the Crash Bandicoot is now relevant in modern day. We also have amazing set of games that have come out this year that are just, I don't even have time to play them. We have Uncharted Lost Legacy, Nier Automata, Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, Persona 5, Resident Evil 7, Cuphead. I mean, it's just hit after hit after hit.
Yeah, I feel like if any of those games came out in a different year prior to this, they'd be the game of the year in those years. Right. You know what I mean? Which I guess is what you want from the progression of games. Is you want them to get better to this point where you've got several hits coming out in a year, because that just means video games are getting better.
Right.
So
but 2017, man. And then let's just talk about Nintendo for a minute, because everything. The Switch came out in March.
Yeah.
That's. I can't do math. 7 months ago?
A new Nintendo console is always going to be a year of dreams.
And they've had ARMS, Splatoon 2, Mario Kart 8, and of course the game of the year, hands down, Zelda.
Yeah, and that's not even counting Mario Odyssey's coming out.
Oh my gosh.
By the time this launches, you and I will probably be knee deep in Mario Odyssey.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, and from all accounts thus far, it seems like that's going to be Breath of the Wild Mario style. So.
And I open with this entire refrain because if we wanted to will a bunch of games into existence and make them come out in 1 year, 2017 did it. Yeah. Like, it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, 2018 is shaping up to be pretty good too. So,
yeah. A lot of good hits coming.
There's a lot of question marks, but still,
Red Dead Redemption 2.
I mean, I'm excited about Anthem.
Ooh, yeah. That's not going to come out in 2018.
It's not coming out in 2018?
It might. I mean, they're slated.
Yeah,
I don't think it. I'm predicting right now, Termite's prediction, that game's coming out spring of 2019.
Oh, that would be disappointing. It does look great, though, and I mean, I'm enjoying Destiny so far, so I'm already getting into that style.
BioWare just released Mass Effect Andromeda. Like, they're not going to...
It's a different BioWare.
That's true. There's 2 different studios.
Anyways, cool. Well, we want to go ahead and jump in. So with that caveat, we'll go ahead and start talking. We're going to start with what we think we want sequels or remakes of existing intellectual properties that are out there. I'll go ahead and start. I had this idea simultaneously to Termite's brother, who brought it up to us as well. So I think I'll start strong and say I would love a proper open world Pokemon game, whether it's an MMO or if it's just like it's open world. You can see the Pokemon, you can engage in combat with them. There's no like between time. You just throw your Pokeball out and then suddenly you're in the...
Have you played Xenoblade Chronicles?
No.
Have you seen it played?
I've seen some of the gameplay of the new
way
one.
You just described that sounds exactly like a Xenoblade Chronicles game, which is not an MMO, but it is open world, and you see all the enemies out in the field, and you have like all your abilities for your team and your party, and you just run, like your party follows you as you go, and when you approach a monster, the battle music like kicks up. Nothing changes on the screen. It's all real time. It's all just happening. And then you start using your abilities. Yeah. It'd be cool if like the Pokeball was just an item you would use after... Like, your Pokemon would follow you on the ground. Like, maybe your lead Pokemon would follow you on the ground. You have your Pokeballs on your belt, like the show.
Did you ever play the game Lost Kingdoms, by any chance?
Nope.
For the GameCube?
Nope.
It makes me think similar to that, where each Pokemon is its own ability, essentially. So you throw your Pokeball out, it does a quick water gun or something, and then it's gone.
Nah, that would
Or
cheapen
you throw the Pokeball out, and you are then the control
I like that.
goes into the Pokemon,
like
and you have a set of 4 or 5 spells.
You just see the trainer off on the side.
And then when your Pokemon gets weak, you can pull him back and throw out a new one.
That's what it needs to be. It needs to have the whole like RPG fight mechanics of the original Pokemon games.
Yeah. But the trainers aren't involved in combat. It's all the health bars. So when you're controlling the Pokemon, you're using their abilities, and so all the health bars are associated with that. The trainers then just basically become props, on the side. But then when you're moving around the world and engaging with stuff, you're the trainer, but all this is real time. You're not entering into combat mode or anything. You just run up, throw your Pokeball, and then boom, you're a Pokemon.
Yeah.
And you're fighting. That would be awesome. Sweet. And then, again, you level up, you go on raids, you do PvP. Like, that would be sweet.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be an MMO for those of you who hate MMOs. Just even an open world Pokemon
I think
game.
an MMO Pokemon game would be a little messy. Like, you have 20 million players in one field trying to capture, Pidgey or something.
At the very least, the game, if it were an open world game that had multiplayer elements, so including PvP, but then you could also do like multiplayer raids.
It would almost be like a games as a service type thing,
and
like
you could
Destiny
go kill, you could go fight legendary Pokemons too.
And
that's how you get them. They're the raids.
Yeah.
So you go, and you all have to, 5 or 6 of you have to use your Pokemon
that
to
would
beat.
Be sweet.
And in a raid, and there's that, and then you get them, and you can use them in future encounters, and that's how you progress. That's instead of gear, you get stronger Pokemon. You get the legendaries. Yeah, that would be sweet. So,
Nintendo, make this game.
Yeah, for real. Make this. Please be the Switch game. Like, and that goes for all developers listening. If any developers out there are listening to this, or future developers, if you're a kid right now and you want to grow up to make video games and you like our ideas and you want to make them, I'll wait 20 years. I'll wait 20 years for an open world Pokemon game. Yeah. Like, I'm cool with it. So be inspired.
I think
please.
Game Freak has to sign off on that, though.
Well, go grow up, work for Game Freak.
There you go.
Make our dreams a reality. So that, like I said, Termite's brother also has some credit for that. So
thank you,
shout
Tommy.
Out to you, Tommy. Yep. All right, you got one for us?
Yeah, so I'm a remake junkie. I love remakes. I love remasters. My wife makes fun of me constantly. You've already played that game. Why would you do it again? And I want to buy and rebuy everything because I don't know why. I love revisiting nostalgic games. So I would love a Switch remaster of Mario 64, of Mario Sunshine, Luigi's Mansion, and Skyward Sword.
Okay.
If they could port all of those games. So Mario 64 is from Nintendo 64. Sunshine, Luigi's Mansion is from GameCube. And Skyward Sword is the only 3D Zelda game that hasn't been remade yet.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I would love to have that all on the Switch. That would just be amazing.
It would be cool if they bundled them all together and you could get the Mario Suite, the Zelda Suite, all remastered for the Switch. So you can play to go. And you can pick any of them of the bundles that you buy.
And they took the Mario Odyssey engine. And okay, so the Wind Waker HD remaster for the Wii U came out as a result of the development of Breath of the Wild. They were doing testing, and they were like, "Oh, hey, we can just take Wind Waker and port it over with this technology, and here you go." If they did that with Mario 64 or Mario Sunshine in the development of Mario Odyssey, that would be really cool.
Yeah,
to take that engine and just the mechanics might be a little different, and I'm okay with that. It doesn't need to be purist. I'm okay with if they modernize it, some. But that would be so fun.
Yeah, that'd be great. Cool. So the next one that I had on my list was, I kind of think of, I like games because I also like story and characters. So I like to see existing IPs where the similar characters or characters I think would interact really well, would be put together. And I got this idea off of someone from the internet who said that in the next Bayonetta game, they might include Dante. Obviously, they'd have to get Capcom to sign off on it, but Dante from the Devil May Cry series, one of the developers who made Bayonetta, I believe, came from Devil May Cry and came from working on that game series. And so a lot of people think that Bayonetta was basically inspired. Bayonetta was designed to be a female Dante killing angels instead of devils. It'd be really fun to see a crossover game. So whether it's in the next Bayonetta, whether it's in Bayonetta 3 or not, I still would love to see a crossover game with Bayonetta and Dante, because I just want to see those two characters who are basically the same person in opposite genders interact with one another. And,
that would be awesome.
And kill demons. I don't know how the game would be structured. I imagine it would be something where it's I kind of think of Devil May Cry 4, where half the game you play as Nero and the other half you play as Dante. But instead of that, I would love if it were just you do one chapter as Dante and then one chapter as Bayonetta. And I've never seen a game do something like this before, where just make it so where the controls are completely different. The experience playing Dante and the experience playing Bayonetta should be completely different. But you're seeing them, back and forth, back to back, and then at some point they meet up together.
That'd be awesome.
And engage, and maybe even a 2-player mode, like a co-op mode, where one of you is playing Bayo and one of you is playing Dante. That would be interesting too.
Yeah.
So
there's a new game coming out. It was announced at E3 that has the Prison Break, where each player plays the other character, and it's this weird split screen with cinematics, and one person's experiencing just a cinematic scene, and the other person's actually controlling the character. It'd be really cool to have that kind of mechanic, which has never been done before with the Bayonetta Dante. That would be sweet.
But but that with an ARPG. So that game, I forget what it's called. What's it called?
The Prison Break game? I don't remember. I don't remember.
Yeah, whatever. Prison Break game, Shawshank Redemption, but instead of that, you're killing demons and angels, and it's an ARPG.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That would be great. Yeah. So that's the second one of mine.
So I was also thinking I would going back to the Pokemon talk. I would love a new Pokemon Stadium. So Pokemon has come out with the Pokemon Bank, where it's an online cloud server where you can upload all of your Pokemon from all the most recent ones.
Okay.
And they've now come out with Red, Blue, Gold, and Silver on the Virtual Console for the 3DS that also support Pokemon Bank. So you can go back as far as Gen 1 and 2 and have everything. And then there's the remake of Gen 3 with Sapphire and Ruby. So you have access to every single Pokemon out there, and you can throw them all in Bank to have a massive new Pokemon Stadium 3 official one. There was a Pokemon Battle Revolution for the Wii that was focused around Diamond Pearl Gen. I think it's Gen 5. That was awesome, but that was for the Wii. It wasn't online. It was just a small... it was good, but I like a full-blown online... referencing your Pokemon Bank, use everything you've got,
and it would be great.
Switch.
Yeah, and it would be great if Nintendo pushed that in the same way that they've been pushing Pokken Tournament as a competitive multiplayer thing.
Right.
Because I'm sure Pokken Tournament's great. I haven't played it very much. I played it a little bit. Played a demo a little bit of it in a GameStop once. And I'm sure it's great, and it's cool that they're trying to make a Pokemon game, up there with ARMS and Splatoon in regards to their competitive multiplayer. They've been really pushing that with the Switch, because the Switch is a great console for competitive multiplayer. You can do it on the fly.
Yep.
So it would be cool if they did that with a Pokemon game, though, because then that's more of a strategy. Because Pokemon tournaments like ARMS or Splatoon, where it's reaction based,
it's a fighting game.
Whereas a strategy based,
right? You have a team of 6 types.
That would be pretty cool. To see them kind of make a stadium game, link it to the Pokemon Bank, and then make that the one of their competitive games they push, and that people go to tournaments to play Pokemon Stadium 3.
Yeah,
and,
that'd be so awesome.
You know, you have your whole wealth of Pokemon games to draw from. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
My last one that I have is, I love the Borderlands franchise, and I've been enjoying Destiny. A lot of my suggestions are very multiplayer oriented, like co-op specifically.
Yeah.
So in that same vein, I will say I would love to see the next Borderlands game, Borderlands 3, include, maybe not necessarily copy the Destiny model, but include elements of it where you have multiple planets. I would love to see Borderlands dungeons, and I'd love to see Borderlands raids.
Yeah.
Because they already have the basic elements of it. I mean, they copied their talent trees. They copied that from early World of Warcraft. Like, that's, I mean, it even looks like old World of Warcraft talent trees. So you have that. You already have gear. You already can arguably, especially pre-sequel, you can arguably establish clearly defined roles. There are some characters you can spec as defense, some that you can spec as support,
and those damage. World bosses too.
Yeah, so I think that the game already lends itself pretty well to being open to those kinds of
I'm calling it.
things.
It's gonna be in Borderlands 3.
You just think it's gonna be Borderlands 3?
Okay,
yeah,
I think you're describing Borderlands 3, and it hasn't even been announced yet.
I think you're right. I just, it's because it hasn't been announced yet, it's on my wish list.
Yeah.
It's on my dream. Like I would play the hell out of that game. Cool.
I would love a true Star Fox 64 sequel. So Star Fox Zero came out for the Wii U, and that was kind of slated as the next like awesome Star Fox game. I loved that game. I don't care what the internet says. People hate on that. I understand why they don't like it. It used motion controls. It like forced you to use the tablet because you had to use two screens. If they just got rid of Nintendo just move away from the gimmicky motion second screen controls, which I said I enjoyed. I think that game was good. I have it. I will play it again. I love it. So, but a true Star Fox 64 sequel where like sprinkle in some RPG elements where you progress with different characters with different ships, and you can kind of upgrade each part, and then you can form your teams and maybe even add some open worldness to it where like you can explore the galaxy. You can choose which planets to go to out of order. So it's kind of like Breath of the Wild where you can approach the story however you want. And like progress through the game however you want, and you end up with at the end you have to have an upgraded team, and you need to know the roles of each player to kind of come together. And I'm not even talking about multiplayer. This is all just a single player experience from beginning to end. That's 50 hours because you have to go through each thing in each mission. I loved Star Fox 64's use of the tank and the submarine. I think those were perfect. The walker and the helicopter thing from Star Fox Zero is weaker in their implementation of that. Execution. So I think if you kept the Landmaster tank and the submarine or some aspects like that, that'd be kind of cool. You could upgrade those as well. And maybe have to use all this at the end. You have to be good at the game by the time you beat the last boss. That'd be really awesome.
Yeah, I almost get the sense that what would be cool if they implemented was your teammates were these very distinct characters, Slippy, Peppy, and Falco in the first Star Fox, and they haven't really, their uniqueness hasn't really translated into gameplay yet.
Right, because you only play Fox McCloud.
Yeah, and you can only see even their ships, but what would be cool is if they distinguished the way that your team functions together.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, maybe Falco has like a speed boost or something that he can engage to help you out, and Peppy can drop bombs, and Slippy can heal you or something, you know what I mean? Like drop health packs or something. And then what would be cool is that they elaborated on that further and made it so you have a 4-man squad and you can trade out, Slippy for Crystal or maybe even Wolf, or you know what I mean? Like some of these characters we already know and have attachments to, and maybe, expand the team a bit, but still keep it, kind of in the Final Fantasy style where you actually can choose which characters you want based on their strengths. And therefore you could go for a heavy defensive team or a heavy attack team.
That's exactly what I was... Yep.
Yeah,
thank you for fleshing that out. That's exactly what I was going for. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think that would be very fun.
Nintendo, make that game.
Make that game. You have one more, I think, in sequels and remakes?
Yeah, so another thing is a lot of Final Fantasies are being ported to PS4 or being remade. Like Final Fantasy X has an HD remaster. They put Final Fantasy VII and now Final Fantasy IX on the PS4. They've re-released 12 and completely remastered it from the ground up. I would love to see a proper remake of 6.
Okay, cool.
Which is Final Fantasy 3 for the Super Nintendo in America, but 6 in Japan. If they properly remade that game is arguably the best Final Fantasy in the Final Fantasy community. So, to have a modern remake of that would be amazing.
Sweet. Yeah, I've never played it, so I'd love to get a chance to play it. I probably won't play it unless they remake it.
On my Super Nintendo Classic, I can't wait to start Final Fantasy 3.
Cool. All right, so now we want to talk about games that don't currently exist. So these are games where these are ideas for games that they may draw off of intellectual property that exists somewhere out there through movies or comics, but ideally this is a whole new type of game that you've never experienced before. So I'm going to start. I'm actually not going to start with the first one on my list because I want to give you guys a sense of what we're talking about. So I'll start with one of the other ones on my list. I would love a game that the focus of the game is on how well you can design weapons. I've always wanted a game like this. In my mind, when I first heard about the fact that you could like blacksmith in World of Warcraft when I was a ninth grader, this is what I thought it was going to be like, and it ended up not being that at all. But what I thought it was going to be was that not only could you design the actual... I want a game where you can design the actual... Not just the look of the weapon, because that's part of it. Like, I don't care. I'll spend hours just tweaking the aesthetics of a weapon. Like,
you're a different man than me.
I think I would. I know I have friends who would enjoy that too, where you just sit there and like, you could just completely tweak the aesthetic, but also design like what it does and how it works. I don't know what a system like that would look like. I don't know what the technology required would be, but I would love for a game where it's like, okay, these choices that you make, you're designing, maybe you collect orbs or whatever that have powers, then you can enhance those orbs the more you use them, and then you can combine them in interesting ways on the weapon. But it would just be cool, and then that ability would work differently on a crossbow versus a broadsword versus a whip. But you could have the wide gamut of weapon choices to choose from, and then all of them would work differently. And then the competitiveness of the game comes not with how skilled you are reaction-wise. That comes into play, of course. But the real nature of it comes in how creative you can be, and how your imagination and ability to combine things can work to make your weapon stronger. So really, if you're the best at the game, it's because you're the most creative.
Wow.
And that, I think that would be a cool way of measuring competitiveness in a way that doesn't currently exist in video games.
To design a game and make that,
I know that would be
nuts.
Wild. You'd have to be crazy, but I think that's I think they can do it. I mean, video games have impressed me thus far with what they're able to do. So I want a game where that is the focus. I don't know what it would look like, because I would want to say leave it up to the developer. But I mean, I can see it working in a fantasy world. I can see it working in a more of a sci-fi. But I wouldn't want an over reliance on guns, because I would love to see it with melee weapons too. So maybe just open it up to the full gamut of the genres, and just be like, you want a revolver versus a
scythe?
Yeah, laser scythe, cool, whatever, make it happen, see who can win,
Star Wars people would go nuts making lightsabers.
Oh, for sure, yeah. So that's kind of that's kind of one of my dream games.
Cool. Okay, so I really, really, really loved Rocksteady's Batman Arkham games, Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Arkham Knight. I thought they were done flawlessly. And I've always dreamed of a proper Marvel superhero game made in the same way, where it can be a specific hero, it can be a collection where you swap out which hero you want, choose your character, and as the story progresses, kind of Avengers style, where it focuses on each character one at a time. And or it could just be an Iron Man game. I don't care. But a Marvel superhero game that's it's developed by Rocksteady, that's in the same vein as the Batman games.
Okay.
Third-person environment that's kind of open. You had to scan and solve puzzles, and you had to think tactically how to approach the enemy situations. Having all of that, using each of the Marvel superheroes' abilities in a way that it's different. So if you're playing Iron Man versus Thor versus Captain America, it's all different because each character has unique powers and unique way of fighting. It would be awesome to have that kind of game made. I want that.
It makes me think immediately of the Spider-Man games.
Yes.
The Spider-Man franchise. And the new Spider-Man looks a lot like what you're describing.
Yes. Insomniac, make it happen. I can't wait.
But with a little bit more action than, frankly, I haven't actually played that much of the Arkham games. I would say faster paced action.
Okay.
And maybe some quick time events. Looks like it has a little bit more of that than the Batman games have, which is fine. There's, for better or for worse, quick time events.
They're kind of necessary.
So I need to. That reminds me, I have to finish the Arkham games that I have.
They're worth
I have Asylum and City.
Those are the best ones.
Yeah,
Arkham Knight's the weakest one.
Yeah, and I have them. I have them both, and I've got 40% of the way through Arkham Asylum. I don't know why I stopped it.
I think Asylum's the best one.
It's a very fun game.
Yeah,
I very much enjoyed. There were so many times I got pinned down by dudes with shotguns and had to ninja my way out of it.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Isn't it, though?
Yeah.
It's like you feel like you're Batman, but you're weak. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a spin on that is Square Enix actually partnered with Marvel, and they have a multi-year, multi-game project announced, and 2 studios are involved. Crystal Dynamics, which made the Tomb Raider reboots.
Okay.
The Tomb Raider reboot, we just talked about this, is awesome, right? And the second one we haven't played yet, but we want to. And they Deus Ex developers, which is Eidos Montreal, they're involved. So 2 awesome developers from Square Enix that are working on Marvel. That is announced. That is happening. We don't know what it is. We don't know any details yet, but I'm excited.
Awesome.
My dreams can come true.
All right. The next one I have of a game that doesn't exist, I have to give credit to. There's a Cracked article on this. We'll link off to it. And the whole premise of the Cracked article is kind of similar to what we're talking about. Is game ideas that don't exist that should. And one that I really liked off of that article, you'll like this a lot as well.
Yeah.
Is someone suggested a horror co-op game, very similar in the vein to this Shawshank game that's coming out.
Yeah.
Where, but the whole premise of the game is that at the beginning of the game you get separated from one another, and so it's co-op in the sense that you're still communicating with one another. But you're in separate parts.
Is it split screen? Like you have to play it together?
No, you don't have to. You could be online? You could be playing it online. Yeah. In fact, actually, ideally, you do this co-op online because you don't necessarily want to be seeing what the other person's experiencing because it's co-op. You're separated from one another, and all you have is your voice communication with one another. But when something scary happens, that voice communication might static or cut out.
Ooh.
And so you'll be,
This is reminding me of the Saw movies.
So you'll be
like the victims could talk to each other, but
yeah, so something like that where, and I've so this was recommended on that Cracked article. I really like that idea. So it'd be almost like going through a Resident Evil game or Amnesia. Or
those are free this month, October.
I know, I got it. I grabbed it. Ooh. So it's almost like going through one of those games, except when something scary happens, I'm hearing it from your end, but in like static and bits. And so I'm like, so part of the fear of the game is that I'm on the other end going, "Are you okay? Are you okay, Termite? Like, you all right? You there?" And you might,
scary.
Yeah. So something like, so that's part of the horror.
If they could actually simulate some way of like making you think your partner's not okay. Maybe that's a little too real. Like people will be calling 911 on you. Like I think my friend's he's in trouble. But to like somehow make that a thing where it's the game, but you are scared for your person.
Right. Well, I was thinking because along that same line, I had an idea today, and I didn't really put them together until just now. But I had an idea today for a horror game. I didn't really fully flesh it out, but a horror game that like messes with you in the real world too. So maybe you sign up for an app or something that goes on your phone and sends you text messages that would be, frightening. And so part of you knows it's just the game, but part of you is unnerved by it too. So what would be interesting too is if, you got text, you sign up for this app, so you willfully do it. You don't have to do it, but part of this game would maybe be sign up for the app, and then depending on who you're playing with, if they got the app too, like maybe you get a text
from them,
from you. So something happens to you in the game, and then I get a text on my end that says like that's from you, and it says something like they're in the house or something like that. It's from the game, but
it'd be so hard to like
separate the reality from. But so it might be a little too much. But I think that like level of horror, like again, talking about video games and art, like that level of like psychological horror would be really interesting. Games can do it in a way that movies can't. You can't sit there and have your phones on in when you're going to see a horror movie.
Yeah.
But if you're in the comfort of your own home, there's no reason why you shouldn't abuse that in a horror setting. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. That's maybe shuttling the line of what games should and shouldn't do. But I think that, that would be... So taking that Cracked idea and then adding that little element to it would be sweet.
Yeah, it would. Yeah. You could even like just have the horror game, whatever it is, on you're playing on your PlayStation, right? And you're on your couch and you're doing your thing, you get scared, and then it is linked to your phone through the PlayStation app. And so your phone buzzes or goes off, and it distracts you from the game, which then is part of the game. So while you're looking at your phone, something happens,
look up
and you're like, that would be awesome. Cool. Yeah.
Sweet. Why don't you hit us with one more in this category, and then we'll...
So I want a Japanese RPG that's a reminiscent from the golden era of RPGs. My golden era, I guess it depends on where you're from, what age your group in. The golden era of RPGs for me was the end of the Super Nintendo and the beginning of PlayStation, where we had Super Mario RPG, which was a late Super Nintendo title, and then we had like Chrono Cross as a sequel to Chrono Trigger on the PlayStation. There was a ton of RPGs. I'm not going to list them here because it'll just bore you guys to death. But a new, true Japanese RPG that's a reminiscent of those old school type mechanics. So that's like active time battles, not open world, but yet kind of, where like you're traveling in a big open world with cities that you're supposed to visit, but you're brought through the game in a linear fashion by the story. So it's like the next thing your party is supposed to do is go to this city, but you can freely go back to any of the other cities and like do side quests and things. I think the industry has kind of gravitated towards the Western approach, and Western is either Europe or United States developed RPGs like Skyrim and Fallout and The Witcher, where there's these massive open world RPGs are extremely popular. They're making tons of money, and you can see the influence in Final Fantasy 15, which is now the Japanese developers are starting to adhere to the westernized sort of RPGs that are more free and open. So I want like a more linear, a more structured, active time battle type system. Probably Chrono Trigger for Super Nintendo would be the ideal battle system. That would be awesome. So a spin on that is the Square Enix developed or produced the Bravely Default games. There's 2 of them for the 3DS. Those games nailed it. It was perfect, exactly what I wanted from that RPG era. And they're coming out with Project Octopath Traveler. Please don't make fun of me for that name. I know it's stupid, and they even know it's dumb because it's a working title, but it's a Switch RPG that looks like Final Fantasy VI or a Super Nintendo RPG, but like 3D too. They're calling it like 16-bit HD or something. I don't know the name of it. Okay. Yeah. Their demo's out for it on the Switch now, and I've played it, and oh my gosh. It comes out next year. I can't freaking wait for this game. It is exactly what I want. It might fulfill this dream, but because it's not out yet, it's a dream.
Yep. Cool. Gotcha. All right, cool. So I think we have time for... Do we have time for one more in this category? I think so, because our last category is not going to take very long.
Depends on how long you want to go, guys.
All right, I got a quick one more game that doesn't exist that I really want to get out because it has been in my head for a little while. One of the most recent podcasts I was listening to is a podcast called Up and Vanished. So we have mentioned 2 podcasts in this episode. We should probably link off to them. 3?
Cracked. Kind of funny, and?
Oh, yeah, Up and Vanished. Cracked, though, was an article, not... The article I mentioned an article. They have a podcast, but I was mentioning specifically their article.
My bad.
But so there's a podcast called Up and Vanished. It's a true crime thing, kind of like fourth podcast, Serial. And it's I was recently listening to that. And while I was listening to it, I had this really cool idea for a game. I think a murder mystery kind of game where you're trying to solve a murder, and I think it would be cool if it was open world, so you could go anywhere and find clues anywhere. So it's not your typical kind of story walking simulator where you're just walking around finding a story that's already laid out for you. Part of my idea is that you're investigating a killer, so you actually have to go do the investigative work. So the challenge of the game is being an investigator. So you go find people to interview, you research news articles, you're looking for stuff, so you might find dead ends, or you might find rabbit holes, white rabbits, whatever they're called. And the idea is that you're trying to solve this murder. And now I'm torn. I have one of 2 ideas for how it ends. Either I imagine that part of the game is you take people to trial, and then that's where the game will help you determine if you're on the right track. So either you take them to trial and then they're proved innocent.
Have you played L.A. Noire?
I have not, but...
This sounds exactly like L.A. Noire.
Is it really similar?
L.A. Noire, I think, is amazing. It's made by Rockstar.
But is it open world, or is it...
Kind of. It's like you can explore the streets of L.A. in the 40s as much as you want, but the story is kind of linear. Like, you know where you need to go.
Right, so in my mind, the story is what... So you could just be chasing after the wrong person the entire game.
Right, so you want to take that concept and open it up more.
I want to just open it up even more.
Fun fact, L.A. Noire is coming out for the Switch. I highly recommend you pick it up.
All right, I'll pick it up.
Oh my gosh, the game is so good.
But anyway. My other possible ending for this game is maybe you don't ever find out if you were right or if you were wrong.
Yeah.
So you bring someone to trial and they get the death penalty and the game ends there, and you don't know... So this whole time you think that you're going to find out who the killer was, but maybe...
But there has to be some sort of objective, whether,
I don't know.
Maybe after the credits roll, it's like an end credit scene. It's like, this was the actual killer and you failed. You have to tell the player.
Maybe. I don't know.
Otherwise, every ending's just... It doesn't matter. It's like, I can talk to you and be like, I thought it was X, and then you come to me and you think it was Y.
It's a statement, man. It says something about the reality of the justice system and the reality of murders. We do the best we can, and we usually have a pretty good idea who the killer is. But maybe, what if we're wrong? Maybe we're wrong. That kind of, I really think, captures the spirit in a lot of ways.
Innocent people hit the death penalty, and there's no objective.
And you don't know, and it's all your fault if they do. Like, I think that would be
but
really
you don't
cool.
really know.
Yeah, I think that would be a really cool experience to do in a game. I think a game could really capture that, but only if you open it up and make it so that everything hinges on your investigative abilities. Wow. I think that would be a fun game. So... Anyways, that's my other game.
What if you did like a little Easter egg where like New Game Plus comes out where you start the game again, but that person you persecuted is gone? And that tells you were wrong because like, there's still evidence out there that's new that has come about.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Of the
think about all the.
Think
about all the arguments on Reddit, like because different people will go through it and they'll convict a different person and they'll be like, "No, I was right for sure. Like it had to be this person."
Yeah.
But that would almost be the like comeuppance is like other people discussing it online, and then you'd be like, you start to read their ideas, and you're like, "Oh no." And then maybe you want to play it again and convict a different person. That would be a fun.
That's awesome.
So that's good. Those are my ideas of new IPs. All right, we'll finish off real quick. We only have a couple of ideas for existing IPs that we would like to see put in the hands of new developers.
I want to give a perfect example of this. So, Iguana Entertainment was a developer studio that made the Turok games for N64. Nintendo and Iguana, under an alliance, came up with Retro Studios, who made Metroid Prime. Right, so first-person shooter genre kind of carried over.
Yeah.
Well, later, after the Wii U had come out, I don't know, when Donkey Kong Country Returns came out, which is the game that Retro Studios developed, they switched from first-person shooters, Turok and Metroid Prime, to handing off Nintendo and Rareware. So, I mean, back up. Donkey Kong Country was developed by Rareware for Super Nintendo. There's 3 of them. Rareware was then bought by Microsoft. And so they make only Xbox 360 games.
Right, because Nintendo owns the Donkey Kong IP. Yep.
Right. So Nintendo was like, we need to make a new Donkey Kong game, so who are we going to hand that off to? Well, they handed it to Retro Studios. Having only made first-person shooters, now they're making a platformer side-scroller game for 3DS and for the Wii. And then they later made Tropical Freeze. So that's kind of an example of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
With existing IPs in the hands of new developers.
Right, so what do you think? What's an example of one for you?
So there's a game for the Switch, it's an indie game, called Fast Racing Neo.
Okay.
And the developers that made that are Shinin Multimedia, and forgive me if I pronounce it wrong, I think it's a Japanese name.
Okay.
They developed like Fast Racing Neo. I would love for them to take the F-Zero franchise away. So I don't know who developed or what studio specifically developed F-Zero.
Okay.
I'm sure in my stack of books I could look it up. But I'd love to see a fresh F-Zero from that studio because apparently Fast Racing Neo is very reminiscent of F-Zero, which I just now realized is not really what we're talking about when it comes to a studio that made a game that's just like F-Zero. We'll go ahead and give them F-Zero.
F-Zero, yeah.
But, it is a new IP or existing IP in the hands of a new studio.
Yeah. Well, the example that I thought of today was I just want to see Final Fantasy in the hands of out of Square Enix's hands.
Yeah.
Like they can still make money off of it. I just want a new developer making it. Because I haven't played 15. I've heard 15 is great, but like it's the diamond in the rough. Like the last several Final Fantasy games have been kind of rough.
Yeah.
So I would love to see, Square Enix either team up with someone or just, hand the intellectual property off to someone else. I don't have anyone in mind. But it would be really interesting to see what, like, maybe some of the Western developers like Blizzard or Bethesda, maybe even see what Nintendo could do with that franchise. Because a lot of those, I think that, a lot of those developers were inspired by the Final Fantasy series. I would hope so. And, I mean, Nintendo used to partner with Square Enix to make the Final Fantasy games anyways. So it would be interesting to see what a new developer could do with the Final Fantasy franchise as a core game. So I want to see Final Fantasy 16 in the hands of people who would respect and honor the root of Final Fantasy and its origins, but make a better game and tell a better story.
Yeah.
So that's what I want. So cool.
All right.
So we had a couple of fan mentions too. We had a couple of smashers who we just reached out to the internet, said, "Hey y'all, here's our topic that we're talking about tonight. What are some ideas that you have?" And we got some pretty interesting ideas, so we'll go ahead and mention them. Do you want to start off?
Sure. So Ryan Smith, he mentioned a fighting game with no limits on where the characters come from. They can come completely wide open from comics, movies, video games, book, real life, etc. Like any person thing you can think of, all in one fighting game.
So what kind of fighting game would you want it to be? Would you want it to be more in the line of, your Mortal Kombat, health bars, 2D side scroller, or would you imagine it being more like Smash, maybe, where it's kind of a platform, got platform elements to it?
With the percentage health and all that. I don't know. I like,
or something new, maybe something
I would like a different mechanic. I don't think the health bar, like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 has the 3 versus 3 aspect. I think Marvel vs. Capcom 3 does as well, but that would be fine. Like, because then you could pick 3 characters, which and a giant selection of characters that this would create. I mean, think about just like anime alone.
Yeah.
And video games alone.
Novels.
Yeah, you just combine all of that together.
I just want like the main character of Great Expectations. Like something, or a friggin' Scrooge.
Yeah. This is Bill Murray.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think that the 3 vs 3 model would work because you would need to choose more than one character.
I think this game would be ideal as free to play and open source.
Yeah,
where people can literally, you have the base code out there for people to like tweak and design characters of their own, and then just submit them.
Yep.
And then you can download them. I don't know, something like that, where it would be interesting just to see what people come up with.
Yep.
And have Julius Caesar versus the Terminator. I don't know.
Yeah.
It would be cool.
Totally be possible.
Yeah. So that would be interesting. I like that. We had another fan, a friend of mine, Jordan Culbertson. He said that he was thinking that it would be cool to have a Zelda-style game, or if you want to think of Darksiders as well, but take place in a Western world. So I imagine kind of like a Red Dead Redemption kind of feel to it, a vibe, even a Westworld vibe to it.
Ooh.
But it's got puzzles, and you're going through a dungeon crawl, and you get different tools as you go that help you solve those puzzles, but still an action element to it as well. So I like that as well. That's good. Right. Good mention. And your brother, I think, also mentioned
the Pokemon MMO.
He mentioned the Pokemon MMO, but he also said proper Mario RPG, I think.
Oh, a proper sequel to Super Mario RPG.
Proper sequel, yeah.
Right, so Nintendo came off with like a whole spin-off of the Mario and Luigi games. It started with Superstar Saga, and it went on to Bowser's Inside Story and Paper Jam. Those are all out there. There's like 4 in that whole series. None of those are really in the same vein as Mario RPG itself was.
Yeah.
And because it was a collaboration with Squaresoft at the time, and like it really felt like a mixture of a proper Final Fantasy game with a proper Mario game, and they did it. They nailed it. I mean, Mario is all about platforming, so is the RPG.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy is an RPG and so is the Mario RPG. Like, oh, it's awesome. I'm playing through it right now on the Super Nintendo Classic, and it's blowing my mind again. Like, I just now, with a mature gaming history and outlook and understanding of mechanics and the things that they brought into it, and the history of Mario and the history of Final Fantasy, and like the context of all of that, I have a greater appreciation for that game that I didn't even have when I was first playing it. That was my first RPG, so when I first played it, I had no idea what was going on. Like, anyway.
Yeah. We could talk
just so you guys know, we love to reach out to our fans and our audience. They wrote in, they told us our comments, their input for their fan favorite games, wish list, just like you guys can also do in future episodes.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So every time we post, keep an eye out on us for on Facebook, and feel free to reply, comment, share, like, subscribe, and be involved in our community. Become a Podsmasher and help us shape the topics for you. You get mentions in our podcast. You can share in our fame.
Yeah, we want to try to do our best to give credit where credit's due. So that includes call us out if we say something objectively wrong.
Yep.
Then please tell us how we're wrong, cite it, and we will give you I don't know, Smasher credit.
Sure. I mean, we can devote a news segment to any show at any point where we talk about our corrections of things that we've done wrong, and we'll quote you. And
but that goes for your ideas as well. If you have a topic idea, we will mention you by name. Who knows? If we really think the topic's compelling and want to hear your take on it, we might invite you to be as a guest on it, because we want to engage with you. We want this to be a conversation. So give us your ideas, crowdsource with us.
Yep.
So reach out to us. We're a baby podcast. Like us, subscribe, share, tell your friends. That's the best way to make us do better, is to help us grow our audience. And the best way you can do that is tell your friends. Sit down and have them listen to an episode. But you can also do things like and subscribe and contribute to our
ever-growing community.
Internet footprint.
We also have a subreddit, 80-Bit Podsmash. Please go on there and start your own topic threads, whatever you like. Just start conversations with fellow Podsmashers. It's there. It's an open forum. You guys can talk about anything you want. Woohoo! This has been a production of 80-Bit Podsmash.
We're Penguin and Termite.
Signing out.